Right now, if you continue on the path that you're going, paying the minimum, it would take you 6 years and 10 months to pay off. And about almost $6,000 of it is just interest alone.
Oh, I believe that.
Welcome to Financial Cleanup. My name is Marcos, and joining me today is my co-host, Layla.
In today's episode, we're going to be getting dirty, digging into Samantha's finances. Samantha's 25, from New York, and she's a freelancer. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. From our 4 financial categories, you rated yourself as struggling.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a deeper look. All right, so can you walk us through your journey of becoming a freelancer?
Yeah, so I've actually worked as a freelancer for the past year now. When I graduated from college at the height of the pandemic, I had a contract job for 7 months, did a lot of gig-based work, and then transitioned into a 9-to-5 job. Did that for about a year and a half. But the other issue I ran into was that it was cutting into a lot of my freelance projects that I was still doing on evenings, on the weekends, and a lot of auditions I was doing for acting and singing as well. So I ultimately decided to quit my 9-to-5 job in the middle of 2022. And then I had a steady freelancing gig where I was actually making the same amount as I was making at my 9-to-5 job, just without the benefits. And that was from September of 2022 to March of 2023, actually. And so that was when I decided to go full-time as a freelancer. And I think it's been very eye-opening for me because my whole life, my parents always had 2 steady incomes, but I think something they always wanted to impart to me, which I still keep with me till this day, is they always said, like, take risks while you're young. Like, you know, the money can come back, but your youth doesn't. So I think in the day-to-day grind of things, that's something that I still do bear in mind, even though it is hard because there is, you know, the stability. And then I have friends who are, you know, they have more steady hours. And then on weekends and on evenings, there's guaranteed, you know, you have PTO, guaranteed pay. And so there are definitely cons to being a freelancer. I think the biggest misconception, especially now on social media, it's so widespread, like, oh, be your own boss, set your own hours. It's so awesome. And I think, you know, at least from what I've seen, what people don't talk about enough is how, especially the first couple of years, it can be really, really hard.
Yeah. So when you say freelance, do you do commercials or is it just photo shoots for like fashion?
Yes, I do photo shoots, commercials. I also do influencer consulting work. I've done that for brands, specifically for makeup brands. And that's when I just source and vet influencers that I already had relationships with at my last 9-to-5 job. It was an advertising agency, and I worked with several influencers, TikTokers, YouTubers, Instagrammers.
Oh, that's cool.
It was really
fun,
cool.
Yeah.
It was cool. So that was how I was able to cultivate those relationships. Mm-hmm. And by maintaining those relationships, I was able to pair them with this makeup brand, and that's how I was compensated.
Do you travel a lot for your work?
Yeah, and that's why I moved out to Los Angeles, because a lot of my auditions were out there, and a lot of the relationships that I had already established, easily 80 to 90% of the girls and guys lived in Los Angeles. And that was really surprising to me because the influencer community is big in New York, but a lot of my contacts specifically were in LA. I also had some celebrity and actress contacts, so a lot of them live in LA as well.
Okay. And so are you happy?
Yeah, I would say I'm happy. I will say that for me, when I was in my 9-to-5 job and there was stability, and I was doing okay, I was so risk averse. Like, I kind of put the freelancing, acting, and everything else off the table because I was like, oh, I'm making a steady income. I have my benefits. Like,
security.
It's almost like I didn't have motivation to really do anything else because I was like, I was so like painfully comfortable because I was like, well, why would I go out of my way to like go to this audition? Why would I go out of my way to drive to like, you know, like I'm originally from Virginia, right outside of DC. So like there's also a decent influencer community there too. It's like, why would I go out of my way to drive an hour to meet someone for a coffee to establish a relationship when I don't really have to? So I think by leaving my 9-to-5, I don't regret it because it's really ignited a fire in me that I definitely remember not having during my 9-to-5. It was just one of those things where I got wrapped up in it, and you know, we got to happy hours, and you get preoccupied on weekends. And then when it really boiled down to, I was like, oh wow, if I do this, I'm just gonna get sucked into it because I know myself. And of course, everybody likes comfort to an extent, but I was like, I'm young and I know, like, I am confident in my capabilities. That much I know. Yeah. So that's why I pushed myself.
Well, that's why I asked if you're happy, you know, because you don't want to be stuck into like a 9 to 5 that you're miserable with. Who wants to live that way? So at least you're finding something that brings you joy and happiness.
Right. And it's definitely hard. I will say, I mean, like, my parents have expressed to me before, like, hey, we wish you would have a more steady path, stable income. I mean, I have a younger brother. He works at the software engineer, so obviously that's very stable. He has the biweekly pay, great pay, actually. And so it is really difficult at times, but I'm glad that I'm experiencing that in my mid-20s right now, as opposed to, like, if I was 40 and woke up and was like, whoa, what did I do with my life? Like, I don't want to be doing this anymore, which never saying it's too late to try something, but I'm just happy I'm experiencing this now because I feel like I'm growing so much.
And you're learning a lot about yourself.
Oh, I'm learning so much personally and professionally. And I see my friends where they've been in the same job for, gosh, now it'll be like 3 years, which isn't a bad thing. 3-4 years, because I turn 26 very soon. But it's kind of interesting because I see it year after. They're like, oh, I'll look for another job. Oh, I'll look for something new. And it's just, I think it's really hard once you get caught in that rat race because you get complacent and you're like, oh, well, I'm making good money, so what's the motivation for me to, like,
trying different ways to also move up?
Yeah, exactly.
It can be stressful.
So is this something that you've always wanted to do, or like how did you even get started in the freelance work, or like?
Oh yeah, I knew that I wanted to do this pretty much ever since I graduated from high school. I actually did not want to go to college, but my parents were very much like, you need to go. Yeah, you need to go.
My parents too.
Yeah.
Very common.
Yeah, and so after living on the West Coast, I do think it's more of an East Coast thing because I'd grown up there my whole life, and it wasn't really a matter of, are you going to college? It's where are you going to college?
Oh, yeah.
So there was a lot of pressure there, and then I remember after my sophomore year, I actually had an opportunity, was with acting in Los Angeles, and I wanted to drop out. And my parents said, no way, because you're never going to go back. And they definitely were right. I would never have gone back. So I was just over it. I was like, I just want to get on with my life. Like, I'm sick of this stuff. Like, to me, I kind of thought it was always BS. But that was just me. I made great friends there. But I was like, what is this actually going to have anything to do with what I actually want to do with my life? So anyways, I returned to college. I was an international relations major in college, but it was like one of those things where I was kind of like pleasing the family at the time. I was like, okay, this is what I need to do, right? But then when it really came down to it, I did a lot of research in my own time, and I saw my parents who have always had 9-to-5s, and they're in their mid-50s now, and they still have to work a lot, and they still don't love what they do. So I really took a hard look at my young life then and was like, okay, interesting. Like, I didn't have a ton of work experience. I mean, I'd worked like retail and like as a server and stuff. Yeah. I think by that time I was like 20, but I knew enough to be like, okay, if I want to make good money and have some sort of flexibility or control of my life, or lead a life of purpose, that's a big thing for me too. I was an athlete my whole life. I played tennis, so I always felt like I gained purpose from there. Because for me, I was good at school, but I didn't enjoy it. Right. Not saying anybody, not saying anybody does, but it just, if I hadn't had tennis, I probably would have been miserable. So purpose was a really big thing for me. And I saw that my parents really did not derive that from their work at all, which was scary to see. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I either need to start my own business, I need to set out and do something different, or really pave my own way and be confident in myself and my own capabilities, because you're going to have a ton of people saying to you, like, what are you doing? Why are you still doing this? Like,
always going to have people judging, no matter what you do.
Always. And no matter what age you are too. And it's the same with like your love life, right? Like, oh, you're mid-20s, like you don't have a serious, but there's always something people are going to judge you for. And so that's when I was like, you know what? I don't care. I don't care what people say about me. Good. I got a 9-to-5 because originally I was like, it was COVID, and I was like, all right, let's see what this is about. Like, I made some great friends there, but I'm beyond happy that I left. I just don't think I could have seen myself doing that for the next 20, 30 years, because I know myself, to be fully transparent, I do want to make a ton of money. And so I knew, I was like, okay, unless I'm trying to become the CEO of some like Ernst & Young or PwC, one of those companies, which takes a long time and it's not even guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. But again, I just understood that what I wanted probably wouldn't have been in the cards if I'd stuck with a 9 to 5.
So now you said that you're looking to go back into a 9 to 5, right?
For the benefits.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that. Is there a specific field that you're looking into, or like what's your plan? Like, are you applying online, or is that what's your process to doing that?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. I'm utilizing my connections that I made during my time at the advertising agency and throughout my freelance tenure, which I have made lots of contacts with different publishers, mass media sites, and influencers. So I am applying online, but I'm also cultivating these relationships, connections through LinkedIn, like even through social media. Like Instagram has been a big one too. Been setting up video calls, phone calls. And I think something that is in the back of my mind is like, I do understand that I will be kicked off health insurance once I turn 26. So I do need to have some sort of...
That's around the corner, right? You said?
Like 2 weeks around the corner.
Okay.
Very a little too close around the corner. So yeah. And so I actually was very fortunate in this one girl that I know. She's an influencer and she pays for private insurance. Okay. And she referred me to this lady. And so, you know...
Do you know what she pays? How much she pays at all, or no?
She actually pays $150 a month.
$150?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I already talked to this lady, filled out the paperwork and everything. So if I don't have something ready by my birthday, I'm going to move forward with that. So that would be $150 out of pocket. But ideally, I would like to have something set in stone with the company, because I do know that to me personally, and I do listen to my parents on this one, when you are paying for health insurance, when you could be getting it through a company, like in a way, it is kind of free money, right, unless you're bringing in like millions of dollars and it's not going to put a dent in your net worth.
How's your like overall health now? Do you have to like are constantly going to see the doctor, or pretty much like you're okay? Like you're not, it's not like, no issues regularly that you have to go to the doctor for?
Yeah, so I have no issues. I'm healthy.
Awesome.
I've never had surgery. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Knock on wood.
So, other than what you're doing now, the freelancing, do you have another source of income, or is that primarily a...
Yeah, so I do UGC ads, UGC content, and that's also gig-based work. So I'm compensated for that based on how many videos I send, or like if I do voiceover, and that's how I'm compensated there.
Okay, awesome. Do you have an average of what you make on a monthly basis? Like what actually hits your bank account?
For what actually hits my bank account, I would say is probably anywhere between $1,200 to $2,000.
$1,200 to $2,000. Okay.
I know that's a wide range.
It's a wide range.
Yeah.
And how long how long has that been coming in?
Yeah, so that's been coming in for the past, I'd say 9 or 10 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think if we use a number, let's say like 1,550, is that a fair number, just to kind of round it off, just to...
Yeah, and I will also say that when I was working my 9 to 5 job for a year and a half, I was living at home for how many? I lived at home for a year, so I did save up some money there too.
So you live in New York City? Mm-hmm. All right, so how are we going to survive on 1,550? Because that seems extremely low. Like I'm sure you have rent, you have your mandatory bills, right? Rent, groceries. You have a car? Right?
No.
Saying? No car?
No.
Okay. So yeah, how are you going to, like, what's the plan? Like how have you, so we looked at your statements earlier today, and there were some things that were missing that we noticed. Mm-hmm. You just moved to a new place?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess we'll talk about that in a second, because again, I'm not sure. 1,550 is obviously going to be a struggle.
Right.
So I guess that's why you're looking for a 9 to 5, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So do you have any short or long-term financial goals?
Yeah, ideally short-term. Short-term for me looks more like taking care of the bare essentials, like my food, water, rent, the necessities.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then more long-term, I would like to take that money and pool it into investments. I already have the 401k and Roth IRA set up, but ideally would like to take that money and really pool it into investments so that I can invest in something bigger, like a house or maybe a nice car, or I'm trying to think of what else is big.
Are you currently contributing to a Roth?
Yes.
Still actively?
I am, yes.
Do you know how much you're contributing a month?
100 a month.
100 a month.
And I will say, I left this out too. I will say that I did do a project that I need to put into my bank account that I didn't put into my bank account yet. Okay. But I did make $2,300 from it. But I was given, my compensation was in the form of like a card, if that makes sense.
Okay. So you can use it for anything, or?
Yeah. And then
like a debit card?
It's like a debit card. Yeah. And then the lady did tell me that if I wanted to go and like bring the card to a bank, I could take out money and like put it into my own account if I
Do you know
wanted
if they'll
to.
charge you a fee for that, or?
No, it's actually free.
Okay. All right, so you can pretty much use that for anything.
Yep.
And then you said 401k. Do you know how much is in there? Do you know how long were you contributing to that?
Yeah, so 401k, I have around 8,000 in there right now.
Okay.
And to be fully transparent, I have been contributing to that since I was 20. Yeah, 20 years old. My dad did set that up for me, so.
Yeah, that's a good start because many people don't have anything, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's very common.
Oh,
that's good.
wow.
All right.
Thanks, Dad.
I'm like,
Yeah.
Dad.
So people, they don't even know. Like,
My sophomore junior, my brother always makes me feel like I'm so behind. He's like, I'm investing in this and I'm doing that. And he's like, you should be investing in this. And I'm like, God.
Everyone does everything like
He's just
on
the
their
cream
own
of the
pace.
crop. Like, he's like 23. I'm like, you're okay. I'm not listening to you anymore.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at your Wells Fargo
Yeah.
account. So here we started with a balance of $5,146.60. We deposited $1,061.45, but we withdrew a little over $1,800. So we ended our balance less than what we started. So we're obviously not bringing in as much as we're spending, right?
Right.
Let's talk about that. So let's see. Looks like you have some income deposits from some work that you did. I do see a lot of Venmo payments to yourself. What's that about? Where's that going?
Yeah. So some of that work has been through gig-based work. And then there were a couple of transactions where if I went to like the grocery store for my mom and she needed to get me stuff first, she would Venmo me the money in exchange for that.
Okay. Makes sense. And then you have cash out, Venmo. Okay. Nothing too crazy on your checking. Where do you do most of your spending? Is that on your credit card?
Yes.
Or on your
Yes.
credit card?
Most on my credit card.
Okay. And then I see here you have a Sallie Mae, you have a student loan, it looks like.
Yep.
Okay. When did you start making payments on that?
I started making payments on that in 2020.
In 2020? Mm-hmm. And you've been making payments ever since?
Yes.
Or even throughout all of COVID when the pause? Or did you stop?
Well, I wasn't able to stop because mine was a private loan.
Oh, I do see that. Okay. Sallie
Yeah,
Mae.
it was private.
Okay. All right. And since you got out of school, it's always been with Sallie Mae? Or did it change?
No, it's always been with Sallie Mae.
So that's your checking. So that's at least there's some money there. So that's a nice safety net for now. And then we have a high yield savings account.
Yes.
You got $1,300 in here, and
That's also something my dad told me to set.
Yes, it's actually
Shout
really
out to
good.
Dad again.
Yeah, right?
Good job, Dad.
He deserves more credit.
Absolutely. And then you deposited $500 there. So
Yes.
awesome. That $500 that you deposited there? I mean, based on what you're bringing in, I'm not sure if that's sustainable.
Yeah.
Right? We're gonna have to look at that when we go into our budgeting section because, again, I'm kind of scared for you because again, you live in New York City, $1,500 a month. That's hard. That's
Totally.
hard. So
Yeah, anywhere in the tri-states, very expensive.
Definitely.
let's look at you said credit card, right?
cards. Yeah. So
Yes.
how many credit cards do you have?
2.
Two. So okay. So you have an MX and a Chase.
Yes.
All right. Let's go over the MX first. So it looks like you use this for not a lot of stuff, very minimal.
Yeah, for the
Just like food and or like transportation.
honestly for the Chase credit card, I don't use it for
This is the MX.
Oh, this is Amex. Yeah, I will say that for Amex and Chase, I was in a situation where I hadn't been paying rent for a while. So I didn't really use it for much, honestly. Like, I didn't really buy very much.
Yeah, there's not a lot over here. So
I mean, I bought presents for people for Christmas, but
How long were you not paying rent for? What was that situation like?
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. I wish I had not pay rent.
you know what? It
Tell us
was
about it.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience. I was actually house sitting for a family, and I wasn't paying rent from August to January.
Okay, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, and they actually just
So it just ended this past month.
well, they actually pinged me again, and they asked me if I'm available to do it again next month. So
Okay. So maybe
you thinking about it?
I am considering it just because it's more of a safety net, and I think it's also a mutual trust type of situation too, where I am still not 100% sure of my path and I'm still kind of figuring it out. So ultimately it would be nice to be in a situation where I wouldn't be saddled with the burden of rent.
So when you're house sitting, you stay there all day, all night? You sleep
You
there?
just
Or?
live there?
Yes.
You live
Oh,
there?
so do they provide you with food, or you have to go your own grocery shopping?
Yes, they provide food as well.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah.
So if you go there next month, what are you going to do with the place that you just moved into? How does that work?
So I don't have many things. I only have a couple of suitcases of things. So I would just move my stuff from downtown back to uptown.
But what about the rent? You signed a lease, or how does that work?
No, it's month to month.
Month to month.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're just living there alone, like as of right now. If you were to stay there, you'd be living there alone.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go back to the Amex. So it's not much. I mean, we have coffee.
Yeah, I spend money on coffee and food whenever I go out with friends.
Honey.
Oh, yeah.
We have more eateries, McDonald's, Dumpio.
Oh, yeah, coffee.
Coffee. So a lot of coffee.
Yep.
And then I have some questions. So over here, let me see. It says pet supply for $29.63. Do you have pets?
Oh, yeah. So my mom came to visit with her dog, and she had me put the payment on my credit card. My mom works full time, and she's in the office. So whenever she comes to visit me, I always pay for the supplies for my dog, for her dog.
Yeah. So my question was, it's not a monthly thing. So it's not your pet. It's not.
No, it's my mom's dog. And then she Venmo'd me for that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is? It's like a tax. It looks like a tax. It was for $56.98. It's government service.
Oh, for the car.
Yeah. But you didn't have a car.
Yeah.
Well, I did for a little bit, and that was like, so that was the car tax for when I lived in Los Angeles, because I did live there last year, and I had to pay tax on it.
Okay, so that's
Yeah, because on there's a few transactions for transportation, right?
Yeah.
You got there.
Yeah,
And it looks like you had a repair too.
yeah.
I did have
Virginia
to, yeah.
Tire for $283.
Yep.
89.
I did, yeah, because I had to ship my car back from LA to, it's at my parents' house in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
And basically what happened was, when I was living in LA, I like just did not get any of these things taken care of. And I honestly, if it weren't for my parents, I would not have gotten it done. But I pretty much, it came back. My parents were like, how have you been driving like this? Like, you can't drive like this. Like, people in Virginia follow the law.
Oh, God.
And so they basically made me go and get it done. But
Yeah. Because over here, for the MX, for just transportation, you spent $424. Just if you were not aware.
So where's the car now? So the car is in
my parents in Virginia. Yeah. But
Is it your car? Is it your parents' car? Whose car?
It's my car.
Okay. So are you currently paying anything on it? Like, is it paid off?
Because over here,
It's paid off.
Paid off.
Okay, so this, I have insurance over here. 102. Is that monthly?
Yeah.
Is that it's continuing?
Yes.
Okay, so you have to pay the 102 monthly. That's a monthly expense.
Yeah, because I was going back and forth a lot to Virginia. So whenever I was going back there, I was using my car and driving.
How often are you going back now?
I haven't been back in the last couple of weeks.
Okay. Do you intend to go back anytime soon, or
Maybe next month at some
month
point.
you'll drive the car?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. So we have that. So who uses the car now? It just sits there, or does your family use it?
It just sits there. Well, I mean, one of my brothers is in college, so if he comes home, then he can always use the car if he needs to.
Okay. Because I'm just trying to figure a way how we can get rid of that $102 monthly payment, because you need every dollar you can get.
Right.
So do you think you can maybe work something out?
Yeah, I was actually talking to my insurance company about that, if there's any way. Yeah, it's like a weird situation, because whenever I go home, I drive it, but I don't use it here. So it's like a weird situation where I'm like, well, I don't want to pay this, but also I'm driving.
Would you consider renting the car out? What's the
Turo?
Shoot, I did that in LA. I rented someone else's car in LA, actually.
So at least you could get some money instead of
That's
having the car
true.
just sit around.
I didn't even think about
even
that.
if your siblings can maybe help you with that expense, like, hey, let's split the
Yeah.
insurance. Like, you're using the car. Like,
But I also wouldn't, like, I mean, Turo sounds like, I didn't even think about that. That sounds like a great idea, but I also wouldn't have anyone to, like, give the car off.
A lockbox, maybe.
Oh, I guess if they'd be willing to drive to my house, or my parents' house. I didn't even think
maybe
about
like
that.
a post office. I know they have
Something.
but I don't
Like,
know. I don't know how that works. So.
Yeah,
I didn't think about that.
I'm not sure how that works, but
Right.
But even though, like, I'm sure you can find someone online, just like someone looking for like tasks, like, you know, randomly.
Yeah.
You can look for people that are like shovel some snow, or like maybe you can offer someone like, I don't know, $20-$30. Hey, all you gotta do is drop this off.
Oh,
Might be, you know, it might
interesting.
be an option.
an option just to consider.
I
Maybe
didn't
look
even think
into
about
it,
that. Yeah, I was so frustrated the other day too, because it's a
it's
nice
just sitting
car.
there.
Yeah.
It's a nice car, and it is just sitting there. I'm like, dang, like I wish I could have
Make money.
Make some
Yeah,
money,
right?
yeah.
Like, I wish
Especially if
I-
you're not gonna use it.
Yeah, like
so
I wish
why
I could
not?
get some use out of that.
Yeah, look into that.
Okay,
That would be
definitely.
definitely an option. And over here, I see there is a charge for LinkedIn for $39.99. Is that monthly?
Yeah,
Is it
so
membership?
I canceled that. That
Okay.
was only for last month, and that was because I was trying to message certain people on LinkedIn, and you have
Okay.
to have the features to message certain people, like the premium features.
Okay.
So yeah.
So that is canceled. We don't have to worry about that. And Ulta, do you go to Ulta? What's the frequency? Because over here it's the $49.82 is a charge.
Yeah, that was for my foundation that I bought.
Okay. So do you go to Ulta for your personal care products?
I do, but not very often. Like
Okay.
if I do, it's like a once a month or maybe once every few months type of
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
All right.
Do you have any recurring expenses when it comes to that, like hair, nails, something like? Because we don't.
Just personally-
there's not many charges on here, so like.
Yeah,
you-
I actually don't with like the last time I bought that particular foundation at Ulta was a year ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
like when I buy it, it lasts me for like a year.
Forever. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I mean, you don't even use food is $92 on the Amex. So
it's all eating out. So that was obviously when it was being covered.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
there's no way if I'm
Yeah.
driving.
You have no grocery
Right.
expenses over here.
Right.
Okay. So looking at your Chase, I'm not sure how to. This is all we got.
Yeah.
So is there a balance?
I mainly use the Amex one.
okay.
Yeah.
Is there a balance on that right now?
The Amex.
Because it's just like a statement, but it doesn't tell us,
What's owed?
or do you pay it in full every month?
I paid in full every
So you
month.
never pay interest.
No, I don't.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm gonna assume you do the same thing with Chase.
Yeah, with Chase, I do know it's not very much this month in particular because I just have, for whatever reason, I haven't been using it very much lately.
Okay.
The usage, the overall usage you're saying, right?
Yeah, it also depends because with Chase, I used that one more so when I was living in LA and I needed the free points for the airfare.
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of leaning in the opposite direction, like, oh, I want some free points for hotels and whatnot. So that's why I'm using Amex more now.
Okay.
As long as you're not paying interest. Like there's a lot of people that don't like credit cards because obviously it's a slippery slope, and or some
Yeah.
people they use credit cards and they buy anything just for the points, but then they're paying 30% interest on it.
Yeah.
And it kind of like negates the whole purpose of it. So
Totally.
I'm a big fan of credit cards as long as you are paying them in full every month and you're not paying any interest. Which
Yeah.
You haven't been, correct?
Shockingly, I've never had to pay interest on any of the payments. And then my credit score is I think my credit score is like 80 something.
Awesome.
It's pretty
Great. That's
solid.
excellent.
Yeah.
That puts you in the top tier. Anything above 740 is like top tier.
Yeah,
It
and
could
I've
be
also never, I do know for a fact that I've never missed a student loan payment.
so far.
So far, yeah.
Why do you say so far? You plan on missing payments or?
No, I'm just, no, but I think that's also what's contributed to the solid credit score. I think if anything, my mom really like pushed that on me because I do know that she had some credit card debt when she was younger that she got herself into, which yes, I've very, very common. A lot of my friends have had it too. And so she basically told me, she was like, listen, like I made dumb mistakes when I was younger. Like, don't do this because it can take years to get out of it. And also like it destroys your credit score. So if you're trying to get a house or an apartment, like then they had to use my dad's credit score to get the house. Like it,
Yeah.
you know,
It's awesome that
there's
your parents were on
consequences.
top of you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, most people don't have any guidance. So the fact that you started retirement already and you kind of have a baseline, that's awesome.
So other
Shout out
than
parents.
your student loans, do you have any other personal loans?
I mean, like payday loans, any any financial institution that you owe money to.
No.
No. Okay. Awesome.
And then the car's paid off.
Cards paid off. Excellent. So let's look at your private student loans.
Sure.
You have a current balance of $21,965.23. Your minimum payment on that is $343.56. What has been your plan, if any, to pay this off? Have you, right? Because right now we're showing an interest rate of 7.25, which is, it's considered higher interest.
Yeah.
rate.
Yeah. And I figured it would be higher too because I did apply for the federal loans, but I didn't qualify for that. So we did the private route instead. And I think really for that one, paying off the minimum each month, and then ideally if I do get something more stable or if I see more money trickling in, then I'll pay off higher than the minimum amount per month. That's my plan.
Like throw chunks at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, if you continue on the path that you're going, paying the minimum, it would take you 6 years and 10 months to pay off. And about almost $6,000 of it is just interest alone.
Oh, I believe that.
So, your balance would go from, almost 22,000 to almost 28-ish thousand. So that's a big jump.
That sounds about right.
All right. So your living situation, you said you can possibly go back into
House sitting.
I think I am going to do that, actually.
I think that's a great idea. Because if you can save on having to pay rent and groceries. You can really, really tackle these. Yeah. The student job. What's the percentage that you can get that job back? Like, is it like if you want it, if you say yes, like you're definitely in, or
for the house sitting.
For house sitting.
Oh, I actually locked it in last night.
So
yeah.
All right, so,
okay.
Awesome.
Because
so it's only for 1 month though.
Well, they said I can extend it if I want to.
Oh.
So because I've established a relationship with the family, and I actually met her because I did some influencer marketing consulting work for the lady, and she's bi-coastal. I met her in Los Angeles. And so ultimately in exchange for me house sitting and just overseeing the premises, making sure everything's okay, handling her websites, her social media marketing work. So essentially I don't want to say, I guess working for free because I manage her social media accounts and I do all of her influencer work too, but I don't get paid for it.
Well, you're getting value.
Yeah.
You're getting value. You're not paying rent or groceries. That's
right. The trade-off. That's the word I was looking for. The trade-off is that I don't have to pay rent. So again, one of those things where ideally I would like to move out of, like my goal is if I have something set in stone where I get some sort of big gig where it's like, okay, that's a lot of money coming in, then I can move out. But I just don't want to move out permanently when I don't have that.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's just more so for my own safety. Like, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm like, oh, shoot. I'm like, I just don't want to think about that if I can't like pay my rent or something.
Why did you leave? Like, why did you get your own place all of a sudden? And then, because this is the first month back.
Yeah.
And now you're going back again. So like,
yeah, I'm actually subletting my friend's place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't really planned. It wasn't totally planned, but my friend mentioned that she was going to go out of town for the month. That she was like, "Hey, like I would really like for somebody to watch my place," and
Did you have to pay her anything?
Yes, but there was a discount.
Okay, but you don't have to put a security deposit or anything like that?
No.
It's just like
that was also the appeal of it too.
It is month to month. You said, right?
And it's month to month, and that was the appeal for me because I had done some, I guess, sleuthing on my own. And even for the month-to-month places that I found, it makes sense, but they still wanted you to put down a security deposit. And I knew enough from my time in LA that you're not going to get all of that back. You typically never do. So that's when I was like, okay, I am not going to do this unless I have like literally what they say, like 2 months rent up front. Like I don't want to put myself in that situation because I did have a friend who, she makes good money now, but she moved to New York when she was like 18 and she was making good money from modeling, and then one thing led to another, and she ended up in a homeless shelter for a few months because like the money just if it's not coming in consistently, it can dry up. Yeah. And she had crazy spending habits, but yeah.
So with the house sitting, is it something that could be long term? Like 6 months?
Yeah.
8 months, 12 months?
Yeah, and I've actually thought about that. And I think that's where I really grapple with. I do my best to not listen to my parents' insights and feedback all the time because I think sometimes, they've given...
What do they say?
It's more so my dad who's more like, he's more old school and he's more like, oh, like, you should just be paying for everything yourself. And he was more he didn't want to pay for all my college.
I liked everything that he told you up until that. So all the advice he's given you has been excellent. Dad, great job. But now...
Except for the college advice?
About, the paying for everything yourself. Like if she has
if you have an opportunity
to arbitrage your living.
Yeah, of course. And he's not, and I'm grateful because I have some friends whose parents like are just, I think, very delusional, which, hey, that's not always a bad thing to be delusional, but they're kind of to the point where they're like, oh, just move there. Like, you'll make money. You'll find a way. Like, whereas I think
going with the flow.
They just wing it.
It's definitely more of a slippery slope that way, right? And I've had friends who've had to learn the hard way. And my dad is very, very old school. And, I think my mom was more so the opposite in that she's like, no, like but it's interesting because my dad's always one who's chiming in on my life. So he's like, oh, like, I just don't understand why you don't have a 9 to 5, or like, I don't understand why you're house sitting when, like, you're 25, you should be paying your own rent. And like, I think for him, it bothers him. Yeah. He doesn't understand. It's almost like if he even thought it was crazy for moving to Los Angeles. I mean, the way he said it was pretty much like you have like a 0.000001, which is true, percent of making it as a successful actress. Like, why would you even waste your time doing that? I understand and respect that that's his train of thought.
All right.
I think after living in LA, I think, in my opinion, that's more of an East Coast, like, traditional mindset, where he literally told me, like, all I wanted for you was to go to college and get a 9 to 5.
But it's not about what he wants, right? It's about what you want.
And that's why I've come a long way, because when I was 22, I really did care a lot about what he said. And, I've heard so many different success stories of, like, people having to crash. I knew people in LA who were like, they're doing well now, but they had to crash on people's couches. They just had to do what they had to do to make it. And that my dad is like, he's literally told me, he's like, that's so embarrassing. Like, the fact that you'd have to crash on a couch or like sleep in your car, like, you can't afford your very old school mindset, which is fine. A lot of people like.
Yeah, I mean, and he's not wrong in saying that it's very difficult to.
Oh, it is.
To make, like, it
is.
Did he?
And he
was he born?
Because he cares.
Right.
Was he born in this country, or is he?
No, but he's lived here for the past 30 years. So he's American citizen. He's adapted to the ways of American life. He went to college here. So I think.
Is he the one that wanted you to go to school? Like, because you said you didn't want to go to college, right? Is he the one that pressured you? Or you
and I honestly think that if it hadn't been for him and it were just my mom, she probably would have let me take a gap year or a gap semester, or like figured it out. She probably would have been more supportive of me going to Los Angeles. I even got really scrappy while I was out there and made some really good money, especially out in LA. There's plenty of ways to do it. But I think my dad is the kind of person where he
wants to see stability.
Yeah, and he's more like, he doesn't understand where, like, after you have a college degree, like, he doesn't understand, like, for example, like, this is such a bad example, but like, there was this game show out there, like, it was similar to Deal or No Deal, and like, you could be a model on the show and you could get paid like $2,000 if you were doing a modeling gig there. I mean, that's only for one day. But like, he doesn't understand why you would even do that if you have a college degree. Like, he doesn't understand why you'd be a server or a bartender if you have a college degree. He's kind of like, oh, like, where's the stability? Where's the linear path? Like, are you going to be promoted in 2 years?
Like, even now, like, so many people have college degrees. It's almost like, it's just like having.
It's saturated. It's saturated.
We were just talking.
Like, most people that I know don't use their.
They
college
don't.
degree.
I don't use mine.
Yeah.
You don't use yours.
I literally don't.
You're like, I don't either.
I wish I can sell it back, because we really, no one uses it.
Where'd you guys go to college?
I went here local in Bergen County private school, which I regret. Paid a lot of money for.
Which
it.
school?
Berkeley.
Okay, I don't know much about New Jersey, but
I went to Ramapo. Up in Mawa.
Okay.
It's state, not private.
Yeah, and I think it's more of I do 1,000%. I think it's a status symbol thing. My dad has Facebook, like all the Gen Xers and like older people do. They brag, and so, and then when I graduated from college, which was like it was like such a struggle to get me to the finish line there. But anyways, I did it.
Same.
Did it. And as soon as I graduated, my dad like took all this footage, pictures, and like posted it all on Facebook. Like, my first daughter, my first
so proud, right?
And I was like, you make it seem like it was. Anywho, it was like the way he posted it made it seem like it was just bread and butter. Like, so happy to be there for you. So I'm like, this is not an accurate representation of how the past 4 years have gone. But
yeah, or like how I feel.
Never is.
I didn't even really care. I was like, I mean, I cared, of course, and it's like, okay, this is a good milestone. But
yeah,
I was kind of like, I'd probably be happier to make my first million,
Well, I was gonna say, we were just talking a month ago that there was an article saying that a lot of big companies in America are opting out from mandatory bachelor degrees.
I could see that. I could see that.
A lot of people after high school are just going straight
doesn't know you're giving up.
Yeah,
you're passing up on a lot of candidates that may be better than someone with the degree. I mean,
I feel like people.
I didn't learn anything in school, really. I don't retain anything.
I feel like people learn more with mentors. Versus,
absolutely.
Yeah, with mentors
Absolutely.
versus like, okay, you graduated, here's your degree. Yeah. It's like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
That's why like YouTube University, like there's so much content on there. Like if whatever you want to learn, there's a YouTube video about it. Moving on, let's look at our budget.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's figure this out.
So I think we're going to go under the assumption that since you signed last night, right, you agreed to live or to nanny, right? To nanny at that house.
Yes.
So
Is it something
Minus the kids.
is it house sitting?
House sitting, yeah.
House sitting.
So
Thank God there's no
months do
kids.
you think, how many months do you think you're going to be, this is going to be your situation?
Yeah, honestly, I would like to do it ideally for 3 to 4 months. And I think, I'm doing things on my own timeline. I'm not adhering to anybody's expectations of myself.
Yeah. I would stay as long as you can.
It is.
I stay until she kicks me out.
It's honestly really nice.
Right?
Because,
That's so nice.
It's really nice because in Los Angeles, the place that I was living in, so I did have roommates there, but it was nice. LA's a little bit cheaper, not much, but a little bit cheaper. It's you get more space for what you're paying out there. But we had a room. It was a little I want to say like a little hut, like a little guest house, where it looked just like this, but it was a little house in the back. So if one of us, she was an actress, so she would go back, she would do her self-tapes in there. If I needed to film content or if I needed to film myself, because I also, for this one brand, I was doing their Loom videos. So I was just filming myself like in front of green screen, like a big backdrop. So that was really convenient. Whereas now, I barely have a backdrop and it's very crammed, which is, that's Manhattan living, but it is significantly harder. And I was actually even talking to my friend about it. I was like, listen, if I don't go back to this lady's place, I think I'd rather eventually down the road just move back to LA because I don't know how I'm going to be able to get the studio space. And all my friends, none of my friends have adequate space to set up something like this. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we're going to move forward with the assumption that you're going to be there for a few months.
At least, yeah.
Okay. So gas you don't pay, rent you don't pay.
Mm-mm.
Groceries?
A little bit, but not really. Even right now, I'll go to Trader Joe's and
should we?
stuff.
Okay, so
I don't spend very
food,
much.
Should we base a budget off of how much you're spending on the Amex card? Just so you have.
Sure.
So do you want to do what, $100? Because
$100.
everything that you spent that we saw on your credit card, that was all eating out. So none of it that we saw was groceries. That's why I asked. I was like, what's going on with the groceries?
Yeah.
Spending here.
Yeah, and even when I've been eating out, I'll take home the leftovers and I'll just have that the next day.
So it's $100. What does that sound? That sounds doable.
That sounds perfect. And even my roommate, she just had so much stuff in her fridge and in her pantry, and I was like, hey, can I move this out of the way? What do you want me to do with it? She was like, well, it's going to go bad, so just eat it. And I was like, okay. So,
all right.
Yeah.
So health insurance, I kind of want to rewind and figure out what this LabCorp is.
Why this
is
my
not
goodness.
getting paid.
Yes.
There's no interest on it, and you have the balance is $240, which is remaining. Why don't we just wipe that out?
Yes, I actually did just pay that.
Oh, you did pay?
It was very recent though.
Okay, so you have health insurance now
through my parents.
Through
Yes.
your parents. Okay,
That's gonna be the $150 a month you said before, right? You're gonna go private.
Yeah, but in the next couple of weeks, I won't be on their insurance anymore. So
okay, so let's.
So we'll do what, $150 for health insurance. And then you said, what did we say for groceries? Is it $100 a month?
Yeah, 100. And the car insurance she's paying it's $102. That's what it is monthly.
Car insurance. Mm-hmm. Okay. Tuesdays you don't pay anything.
You don't pay anything.
No, I don't pay anything.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
I know you're in a really good position.
Those are the pros of freelancing. If I'm telling you, if I had just stayed in my 9 to 5, I would not have made that many connections. Right? Yeah. And even in LA, a lot of the studios that I was shooting at for the brands, and even just in general, certain grocery stores that I would have sponsor certain events, I only got them to do it for free because I had a relationship with them. That really brings you a long way.
Your cell phone.
So my dad pays that.
That's fine.
My dad pays that.
If he wants to help you, that's fine.
Yeah.
Now you can get all the help you can get.
Until we got married, I think.
He can keep paying it if he wants.
Because we're on the family plan, so he says it's cheaper if we're all on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he hasn't started Venmoing, requesting me yet, so I'm just
letting it be.
letting it be. That's the only thing he still pays.
Thanks, Dad,
for.
again.
So, thanks, Dad.
All right. So, what was the student loan? How much is?
Oh, and that was a whole story too. He didn't pay for a few semesters because I had gone and switched my major to film behind his back, and he
wasn't happy.
Was not happy about that. So I was punished, and so Yeah, it happens.
Can't say I blame him.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's a conversation that should have been
Yeah.
but
Yeah. And it was one of those things where I was so petty. I would just do so many things without telling my parent. Like, it's like communication always wins in the end. So it's like I should have said something to them before doing it.
Is there any other expenses? So right now we
do you have any
have...
subscriptions, monthly subscriptions to anything?
I don't.
That's great.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fully transparent, if I'm going on dates, like typically the guy will cover meals and drinks. But aside from that,
Go on as many dates as you can.
I guess, yes. And I will say that, like, even tonight, I'm doing a shoot in Brooklyn tonight, and there's dinner and snacks being catered. So, like,
So you're being fed different ways.
but yeah, and I will say, like, yes, there's obviously still a lot of cons to freelancing, but if you can get into the right work and really know how to play your cards right, especially if you're on a shoot, because I mean, I guess the con, depending on how you look at it, is like, some of these shoots, I mean, they go like 8, 9, 10, 15 hours. Like, you just never know. So sometimes you might not get off till like 3, 4 in the morning. Oh. Like, you just don't know. For me, I like that. I'm more of a night owl anyways. I don't like the morning. But so that's also how I'll get fed. If I'm on set, I already know there'll be food. So
Okay, cool. So then you pay off your credit cards,
I do.
so there's no minimum.
All right. So based on the $1,600 income that we have for the month, right? We have $100 for groceries, $150 for health insurance.
Yep.
$102 for car insurance, and then your student loans.
Yep.
Any other mandatory minimum bills that you can think of?
No,
Nothing. That's it.
that's it.
All right. That leaves us with $803.65.
Ideally, I would like to invest some of that money too.
So this is what I would do before you even. So since you're a freelancer, there's obviously no company match or anything like that. Because I would always recommend, at minimum, take the company match, because that's 100% return.
100%.
So that's a no-brainer.
Right.
But what I would like to see is you be able to build up some more money just in case gig work slows down.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
in addition to that, I want to just make these student loans disappear.
Yes.
As fast as possible.
Yep.
Yeah, no. All right, so we have $903.65 left over every month. So ideally, I would like to see you double this payment,
Yeah.
so we can just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Because you have the flexibility here. You don't have a ton of expenses. So if you were to double it, we can pay it off in 3 years, and you're paying about $2,500 in interest.
And ideally, I would like to pay it off before I'm 30. That is one of my goals.
Yeah, that's. So we'll double that payment. That would leave us with $560.09. Okay, so your expenses aren't, obviously they're not high. So we want to, ideally, since you're freelance work, minimum 6 months of your living expenses.
Sure.
So let's assume, I would even do higher, because they're almost non-existent.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a friend about that, and she was telling me the same thing, that she lived at home for like 3 years, but she was paying off so much of her student loans because she said I didn't have any other expenses. So that was the move.
Yeah. So right now you have, let's see, what do we see? All right. I think we get this balance to, let's say, about 10,000.
Yeah.
Just to have it.
That sounds great.
Because if anything were to happen, you never know. So if we double that payment, you have so you need another 5,000. It's gonna take you like 8.5 months to get another 5,000 to bring you to a $10,000 balance.
Yeah, that would be beyond ideal.
So what we do is you take all your minimum expenses, and then we're doubling your student loans.
Yep.
Right. So now we're paying, instead of the $343, we're paying $687.12, and then you're gonna have $560 left over. All of that, you're gonna continue. You're gonna put that into your high yield savings account.
Yep.
And then I would transfer, because you have more in your checking than you do in your high yield savings. So you don't have any regular bills that auto withdraw, right?
Oh, I mean Sally Mae.
Sally Mae, just that. Okay.
Yeah.
I would try to transfer as much as you can into the high yield.
Yep.
But leaving you enough cushion where you don't go into a super low balance or a negative balance situation.
Like overdraft,
because,
yeah.
if you're getting this high yield, you're getting 4.25%.
Yep.
You might as well, if you have the cash there and you're not using it, you might as well just transfer it over and
Right.
then continue taking that $560 a month and putting it into the high yield That way, when you're there, you're getting the 4.25% on the $10,000 balance.
Totally.
Does that sound like something that you can do?
Yes.
It's very flexible. So if 1 month, you spend more in one category, then, like next month, just be mindful. You just got to try to see where you can cut back, maybe one extra, don't get that extra coffee that you normally would on a Friday.
Yeah.
Maybe just, you know what I mean? Try
exactly.
But I think you're in a really good position.
Yeah, definitely.
I do realize that I'm in a very fortunate situation because I think especially the past few years, I've had friends who have been like, I have no money left. And they don't even have a place to go. Like, they're like, I either have to crash with a friend or I have to go to like a homeless shelter. Like they're just
That's
like,
rough.
yeah.
And then
it's tough.
And that's based on just these numbers here. If you were to get obviously more gig work, or if you get that 9 to 5, like you said, you were talking
Yeah, because I actually have a final round tomorrow. So that.
Yeah, so like in that 20, you had $2,300 there, right? You can take that in cash. So if you put that towards you have an option. You can put that towards your school debt, or you can put it in, and that's obviously going to accelerate it, or you can put it towards your, you can put it in your high yield, and that's going to accelerate that too. So it's really, you can't lose either way.
You have options.
So personally, I would put it towards the student loans. Is what I would.
I think that's smart too.
That's what I would do, because you have some money there. That if for whatever reason you don't get any gig work, you have a place to live. And you have food.
Yeah, and that's basic necessities are covered. And I started off. I think my loan started off with like 30,000, and I'm at 21,000 now. So really, ideally looking to just
squashing it.
Yeah.
So at least that way it's I'm thinking.
Because it's
like it drags on. Like I'm on some Facebook groups and I see people that have been making minimum payments for like 30 years and they're still not done. And like
my aunt she went to law school, but she's in her late 40s, and I think she's almost finally done paying off because she had to pay for all of it herself. And she was still paying for it well in her 30s, 40s. No, actually she's in her early 50s.
Where does she live?
My bad. Virginia.
Oh.
Yeah.
Does she have like fancy car and nice house?
She has a big job though. She has a big job.
So she could have easily prioritized her school loans versus getting
but she got a divorce and she made more than her husband. It was kind of a weird situation where she was the breadwinner and he didn't make as much, but he like did more with the kids. Well, I guess not weird. He just did more with the kids, like more of the homework or like the home life stuff. But I know that she did have to pay him out a hefty sum. So if it hadn't been for the divorce, she probably could have paid him off.
But even prior, how long were they married for? They were married for a while, right?
15 years.
15. So throughout that 15, if she had a high income, she could have probably paid that off.
Yeah.
Right? Prioritize that. And then it's like, that's something.
Yeah, that bites. Yeah.
Because now all that money that she did have, whatever she had, you kind of got half of it, where it could have went all to her.
Well, he also got half of her business because she has her own law firm. But because she established it while they were married,
he's entitled to it. Yeah.
That sounds like a really juicy story.
Oh, it is. I mean,
that's for next episode.
I don't speak to that uncle anymore. So.
All right. So yeah. So what I would definitely start off with doubling your student loan payments. Once you build up that $10,000 emergency fund, then reallocate that money back into the student loans until it's completely paid off.
Yes.
Obviously, if your living situation changes, then you're gonna have to reevaluate.
Yeah.
It seems like it may change within the next few months or so.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you can stay there as long as possible, that's going to be
ideal.
I
accelerate.
Yeah, I love doing that just because I have a room like this where I just film all my content. And then even with my current apartment, like it's so small that like I have like brick behind me when I try to film, and I'm like, whoa, like this is different.
Yeah, and then I say once you're done with that, once this is paid off, I would then continue doing the Roth. And if obviously if you get a 9 to 5, if they have 401k, I would absolutely max it out.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, you're going to be well ahead of your peers.
Well, that does make me feel better because I think my dad and my brother sometimes are hounding me like, and
you need to put the blockers on.
Yeah. And that's so interesting when you're like, oh, you know, a lot of people don't even have 401k. They don't invest. They don't do this. And I'm like,
and they're drowning in debt, or they'll have
that too, I guess, yeah.
401k, they're contributing to that, but then they have 30% credit card interest. So like, you're negative 20%. Like it just doesn't make sense.
I will say that when I was in college, my parents didn't let me get a credit card, and I think I was always very mindful, and I always knew I had to get scrappy, even like if I didn't have the means, because my parents, like from a very young age, always told me like, listen, if you have credit card debt, if you're buying like a Louis Vuitton bag and you can't pay it back, like we're not going to come rescue you. So I didn't get my first credit card till I was 22. And my parents said that because they were like, we knew you would have abused it in college and we wouldn't have come to save you, which I've had friends where one of my best friends, her dad paid out $40,000 in credit card debt. He's very wealthy, so it was a bit of a different situation.
It could add up real quick.
Yeah.
Really fast. Swipe, I'm not even thinking.
Yeah, so I am glad that they told me not to get one. But I think I kind of knew, like, I knew that my parents weren't going to come save me. They weren't going to come pay my rent if I couldn't pay. Like, I just knew I had to, like, kind of find a way for myself. So I guess it's both good and bad, depending how you look at it.
Yeah.
More responsible thing to do, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. All right. I think that's it. Do you have any final thoughts, Layla?
Any questions?
Samantha? Anything?
No questions from me.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad we could make it happen.
Yep, absolutely.